So this video by Only a Lad, which is somebody we have not watched before. So make sure, especially when we watch somebody who we have not watched before, make sure you hit that link that just showed up above my head. Make sure you go down to the YouTube description below if you're watching this in the future to like and subscribe and support this creator's content. This is an interesting one because this is a response to a video by Coconut RTS where they're talking to, well, like I was mentioning in the last video, 3-gen Singularity, an interview with this 3-gen Singularity. And this content creator is saying 3-genning is not a valid win condition. So this is a very interesting take. I think 3-genning is a very interesting and kind of like a very mixed bag when it comes to its place and presence in the game. Because if survivors just slam gens so quickly that they don't pay attention to the order and spacing in which they do them, they should be punished for that, and that being the 3-gen, that the gens are so close that I can defend them easily. On the flip side, there are so many naturally spawning 3-gens that certain killers and builds can take advantage of from 5 gens with no error on the survivor's part, that's kind of a problem. There should not be that heavy of a deficit for not making any mistakes at all, which is interesting. So it's kind of a mixed bag. It's kind of it's a hard situation. So I'm interested to see what they said.
So I don't have the time to work on anything even moderately sized. But I watched this Coconut video where he interviews a 3-gen Singularity and wanted to comment on it briefly. I say interviewed, but in reality it was more like a passive execution. The 3-genner did not come out looking good from this, and Coco gave him more than enough rope for the community to hang him with.
What would you do if they kind of like nerf 3-gen setups?
I'd probably stop playing DVD.
I would stop playing the game? If I couldn't 3-gen, I'd stop playing the game. That is a statement of all time. Hello? Legitimately a skill issue. This is what I'm saying. This is legitimately what I'm saying.
Skill issue.
Literally skill issue. This is why I go to the skill issue response so much. Yeah, it's a crutch. That is a crutch to its truest form. I know it gets old hearing somebody say, "Oh, well, that's a skill issue," and it makes me sound like a jerk. Like I'm so much better than you. I'm not better than you. Trust me. I'm trying my best like the rest of us. But like to say the only reason I'm winning my matches is for one strategy and one strategy only, and they take it out, I lose, brother. You are dog shit at the video game. You fucking suck. The only reason you're winning your matches is because of one strategy and one strategy only. But I'm not allowed to say that that person sucks at the video game? Okay.
Bye, have a great time.
There are a lot of little things in this video that I really want to jump down his throat with, but in the interest of brevity, I'll just go after the big one.
Do you see holding the game until the servers close as a win condition for you?
In my eyes, the killer's job is to prevent the exit gates from being opened. Gen defense is a part of the game, always has been. And behavior acknowledges that if the match reaches 1 hour, that's a killer win because they give you the sacrificed blood points. It's not the match ending, it's the killer killing all 4 survivors.
Ah, yes, because behavior awards you sacrifice blood points when the match magically ends after an hour. That means they've clearly acknowledge that stalling the game for an hour is a valid win condition. Makes sense.
Nope.
And so you think about it for more than 3 seconds. The survivors dying when the server closes is not an intended win condition. It never has been, it never will be, and you're delusional if you think otherwise.
Yeah, the matches of DBD are structured around 5 to 15 minutes, typically. 5 to 15 minutes is kind of like the average time for a DBD match. If a match really starts to drag out, like the survivors are in the killer of like a fairly equal skill level and they both have good builds, like matches will start to go up to like 20 minutes. But realistically, most matches of DBD are 5 to 15 minutes. So no, no, definitely not intended.
It is a technical limitation and nothing more. I'm not saying that Behavior has the most stellar record for game design, but they're not that stupid.
Nope.
Do you know why the game ends in an hour? Tell me, is it a core component to Dead by Daylight's game design or a technical limitation of some sort? Why exactly did the devs put it in the game? Let me give you all a little history lesson. You see, back for the first 3 years of DBD's existence, the games didn't end after an hour. In fact, they didn't end at all until after the survivors had either all escaped or died, assuming no one disconnected. And this was a massive problem. You see, back in the good old days, there was something called a hatch standoff. If the last survivor and the killer both found the hatch at the same time, the two of them would just start standing there, gazing lovingly into each other's eyes, and collecting enough crows to make the artist wet. Why didn't the killer just close the hatch and down the survivor?
I don't know,
Because they
that
couldn't.
joke.
Closing the hatch
I wanna go
wasn't
home.
a game mechanic back then, and if they hit
Mom,
the
I
survivor,
wanna go home. I want off
even
the
if
ride.
they downed them, the survivor would be able to slink inside the hatch while the killer was still wiping the blood off his blade. Why doesn't the survivor just jump down to the hole? Well, because if they do that, the killer would just grab them and sling them right onto a fresh meat hook.
Guess what, bitch? I got a controller for your ass.
The first player to move loses. So they just waited, and waited, and waited, until someone finally got bored and lost. And this would last for hours. So behavior changed it. On patch 2.7.0, behavior reworked the hatch and added in the endgame collapse mechanic. The killer could now close the hatch, and once the hatch was either closed or the exit gates had opened, a loud noise would resound throughout the trial, and a big bar would appear on the screen and start slowly ticking down to your eventual death. Once the gates were opened and there was only one survivor left in the match, i.e. the game was quote-unquote over, you had 3 minutes to either get the fuck out of the trial or stay there permanently. And
By the way, this is why it's not Blood Warden. It's not Blood Warden. Partially it's Blood Warden. But for the most part, this is why people don't open exit gates. It's not because of Blood Warden. It's because they don't want to be on a timer when they're trying to reset, to heal, and to save. They don't want to be on a timer for that. They're trying to avoid the endgame collapse, not Blood Warden. So if you ever find somebody out in the DBD community that's like, oh, they're not opening the gate, why are you so scared of Blood Warden? It's not. They just don't want to be set on the endgame collapse timer. So yeah.
this wasn't something that was quietly released into the game and that was only mentioned once or twice in a live stream or maybe on a forum post or two. No, behavior heralded it from the high fucking heavens and slapped a big fucking bar across your screen. You couldn't possibly not know about it. This is the kind of shit I expect to see when behavior adds a new win condition. And yes, keeping the survivors in the trial until the entity brutally kills them all as the trial itself breaks down and collapses is a win condition. And not just because the killer gets blood points from it, but because the devs did everything in their power to make sure you goddamn knew it. But even then, the trials could theoretically still last indefinitely. You see, when DBD first launched, it had a peer-to-peer based multiplayer connection. The killer's computer and internet connection would serve as the host for the match, meaning that as long as the killer was playing the game, there was no...
I love videos like these. I really do. Do you ever guys get tired of like the history lesson on the same thing over and over and over again? Not this creator's fault. You ever get tired of the history lesson on the same thing over and over? Like I've heard this, like I wasn't around for peer-to-peer, but I've heard about peer-to-peer for like forever at this point. Like, so many videos are like, by the way, the game used to be peer-to-peer. By the way, the game used to be peer-to-peer. You know, it's like, how many times do you hear this? You're just like, yes, I understand. The game used to be peer-to-peer.
Inherent time limit. So even after the endgame collapse was added, the survivors could still hold a killer hostage by just hiding in the corner of the map somewhere and refusing to touch the objective until the killer finally DC'd, and the survivors magically won by not playing the game. Now, of course, this barely ever happened, but it was theoretically possible. Still, that wasn't the reason why behavior introduced dedicated servers into the game. In patch 3.2.0, behavior introduced dedicated servers into the game because it was a good quality of life change that everyone had been asking for years. And they could finally afford to do so without having to pimp out their employees on the street corner. Of course, internet bandwidth doesn't grow on trees, meaning that the trials would have to end eventually for the sake of other matches being started, so they quietly added a 2-hour time limit to the trial, assuming that it would be more than enough time to play a match of Dead by Daylight, which typically lasts between 10 and 20 minutes. I mean, what kind of sociopathic asshole would want to play a single match of Dead by Daylight for 2 whole hours, let alone 1? And they were right. The 2-hour time limit never came to play for at least a year. Hell, no one even knew about it until... Once, there was a man who lived in Mother Russia. His name was Boris. and he was a professional Russian hacker.
That is
He
not
designed
a
cheat
Russian accent.
software for Dead by Daylight and sold it for $50 USD a month to DVD players that were dog shit at the game and refused to put in even the slightest amount of effort to get better. The dog shit players installed the cheat software and instantly felt a sudden, nigh orgasmic rush of power. They went from being trash at the bottom of the barrel to being virtual gods, and they felt the inescapable urge to show off the massive they paid for in a way that would get them the most attention possible, holding streamers hostage until they disconnected. Truly the Giga Chads of the Dead by Daylight community. But there were some streamers who refused to disconnect. One man in particular decided to fight the ego battle to win all ego battles when suddenly the game ended. After 2 hours of game time, the server closed and the cheater just died. And this was how the completely valid and intentional win condition that a certain aspiring chess player would one day popularize was discovered. Completely by accident. Now, because of the sudden influx of soy jacks who paid $50 a month to pretend to be Giga Chads, behavior decided to shorten the time limit on the server to an hour. Instead of just, I don't know, removing the DC penalty if you stay in the match for at least 20 minutes. Since most matches only last about 10 minutes.
No, we covered this. There's a social contract in DBD to finish the game. That's so important to some people.
It would be safe to assume that when a match lasts twice that amount of time, either it's a really intense struggle that both sides are heavily invested in, or some bullshit is going on, and it's best to just let everyone trapped inside the match to just choose to go next already without any consequences.
Yeah.
And thus, the great chess wars were set into motion. But we really don't need to cover that for this video. In case it has been blatantly obvious already, the survivors dying in endgame collapse is a valid win condition, but the survivors dying when the server closes isn't a valid win condition for the following reasons. 1. Original necessity. Both mechanics were introduced for completely different reasons. The endgame collapse was added into Dead by Daylight because of an internal mechanical problem. Having a scenario where the first person to jump loses is an oversight in game design. The endgame collapse was necessary for internal reasons. The server closing is because of a technical limitation, and the max game time shortening to an hour was a response to an external problem. If bandwidth was infinite and cheaters didn't exist, the matches would probably last indefinitely if they needed to. The 1 hour time limit was implemented for external reasons. 2. Information and feedback. When the endgame collapse timer is triggered, there is a huge bar on the screen, and the trial grounds themselves start to collapse. At any point in time, you can look at your screen,
which is really cool. I've always liked that about a game collapse.
How much time you have left?
That like the fake world is like blowing up. I think it's
neat. You have no way in game of knowing how much time you have left in the match. 3. Presentation. When the end game collapse timer ticks down to 0, a giant, spidery tendril bursts out from the ground and pierces your heart as you twitch helplessly as your life force slowly drains your body.
It's very gnarly. It's very over the top, but it's cool.
Horror.
It's very neat.
When the server closes, the game just cuts to the post-match screen. Whoa! When compare the server closing win condition to an actual win condition the devs added into the game, we find it lacking on every front possible. That's even if we ignore the fact that the killer's objective isn't to pressure the gens. It's to kill the survivors. Specifically, to kill the survivors by putting them on sacrificial meat hooks. This is day 1 shit here. You literally learn about it during the tutorial. Hell, even the endgame collapse is in the tutorial. Can you guess what's not in the tutorial? Gen pressure isn't your objective. It's a tool in your arsenal to help you achieve your objective. Just like hitting a survivor and breaking a pallet are also tools. Claiming otherwise does nothing but show a
how many people have we watched in the match reviews prioritize defending gens over just trying to go find a death hook gamer and get them out of the game? How many times has that been a takeaway on the match reviews? You need to find your death hook gamers. But somebody's like over here dry kicking a gen 15 times hoping it'll save the match instead of just actually killing someone. It's incredibly common. Despite it being, you know, as the homie put it, very clear that, you know, that's what you should be doing instead. People just think gen defense is the best thing in the world. It'll solve all your problems.
Complete lack of understanding of how this game works. We have every reason to assume that death by server closure is not an intended win condition, and no reason to assume that it is. So, therefore...
But lad, it still gives you blood points. just like every other official game mechanic.
Yeah, because the game is coded to give you blood points whenever a survivor dies.
If behavior didn't want death by server closure to count as a kill, then why did they code it to count as one?
Would you rather the survivor just magically escape? Do you have any idea what absolute fuckery would ensue? Actually, you know what, let's flip the chessboard all over for a second here. If the survivors all just magically escaped after an hour, if you didn't kill them all, would you consider that a win condition? If Meg and Claudette hid in a corner of the map for an hour, avoiding the objective
really
like
awful.
the fucking plague, would you consider it a valid win condition when they magically just escape after an hour without completing their objective? Now, I sure as shit wouldn't, and I doubt you would either. So why in the do you consider stalling the game out for an hour and failing to do your objective, which is hooking the survivors, as a valid win condition? The answer is, it isn't a valid win condition. But that's not gonna stop little dumbasses like Roblox Boy here from thinking it is. So what can behavior do to fix this? Honestly, if they just change the little death icons to little DC icons, if the little skull icons here are genuinely the only things validating this boring and obnoxious playstyle, then removing them would fix it. It would also be more accurate to what's going on in the trial, the server closing and the survivors getting disconnected. You know, just so the people who are so smart they studied for the IQ test can catch on to the fact that it's a technical limitation, not a valid win condition. Take it easy, everyone, and have a nice night.
Wait, there's 4 more minutes.
I could speak to the community. I would say, I think the biggest thing is that behind everyone who plays a certain way, there's a real person behind the screen. And I think that it would just be so nice if people could play the game how they wanted without being villainized. 'Cause I think
You are playing in a way that makes the game the most long, drawn-out, miserable experience for the other 4 players involved as humanly possible. But you deserve, I wish people wouldn't get mad at me.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
That. You are literally going out of your way to make the game as humanly miserable as possible to the other side. And you're gonna, oh, people need to respect the way I play. I wish people weren't so mean to me. No. No. You are intentionally making the game as miserable as possible for all the other players. Screw you.
I think that's a big problem right now.
Oh, fuck off. You don't get to do that here. I mean, technically speaking, Roblox Boy isn't wrong. For every killer you face in Dead by Daylight, there is a person behind the screen. Just like how there's a real-life person behind the screen of every survivor model you hold hostage in Dead by Daylight for an hour.
Yep.
So your feelings matter, but their feelings don't. They can go f themselves. Maybe you just don't understand the absolute bullshit you're putting at least 4 other human beings through in every single match of Dead by Daylight you play. When you're in a match against a killer who's playing for 3 gen from the very start of the match, your only path to victory is to have 2 survivors each pressuring 2 of the killer's 3 gens, pre-running and playing safe until you eventually win the war of attrition. It's fucking painful, but if all 4 of you are willing to sink half an hour into it, you can wind up with an end screen that looks like this. Of course, that's only possible with a coordinated 4-man death squad. If you're just around with your friends in this casual party game, or God forbid, solo queue, you're fucked. You don't have any option to win anymore. The only meaningful choice you can make is how exactly you want to lose. Do you want to just run into the killer and get this over with? Do you want to go AFK under a hook while you make yourself some chicken tendies?
Ooh, tendies.
Do you want to just disconnect and send time out for a minute for being a bad sport? Or do you want to fight a losing ego battle by around in the corner of the map for an hour? If you give the killer a kill, you are rewarding that player for using a horrible playstyle. If you choose to fight the ego battle, then all you're doing is wasting an hour of your time doing something you clearly aren't enjoying. And if you DC, the only one you're punishing there is yourself. That is the stress and mental anguish you are actively subjecting 4 other human beings to every time you play a match like this in Dead by Daylight. Oh, but your feelings matter. If you play like an asshole, people are going to treat you like an asshole. You don't have the right to play like a complete piece of shit and then pull a fucking pity me card when people start giving you flack for it.
Oh my god, lad, are you endorsing cyberbullying? People should feel safe to play this game however they want without being harassed for it.
First off, negative feedback or someone calling you an asshole is not harassment. And if you genuinely think that's cyberbullying and want to avoid it, there is a very easy way to do so.
It's just a video game. Why are you getting so mad over a video game? If you can't handle playing a video game, then just DC and move on to the next match.
Yeah, but
it's not
the DC
that
panel
hard.
exists for this.
Grow up.
They're just internet words. Why are you getting so upset over internet words? If you can't handle people calling you an asshole, you can just leave the post-game chat, or block them, or just log off. It's not that hard. Grow up. Look, man, if you're going to be an asshole, be an asshole. And if you don't want people to think you're an asshole, don't play like an asshole. There is nothing wrong with being an asshole, as long as you own it.
I've met so many people like this in my life that, like, their deal is I'm going to treat people badly and then, like, have tremendous anxiety about how they're perceived. And it's like, you know what would be great to help that? Don't be a dick. Don't be a jerk. The greatest way to be perceived in the most best light possible is to not do bad things to other people. That is the easiest way to not be perceived as a bad person, is to not be a bad person. It's not that hard. Stop micromanaging your way into being seen as a good person and just be a good person.
Zeb98 is an asshole. Reaper Plays is an asshole. Dead Plays can be an asshole occasionally. Dog Trash, one of my favorite DBD YouTubers, is an asshole. I'm an asshole. But you're not going to catch me tunneling, camping, and foreman slugging a bunch of nerds, and then crying, I don't understand why these salty, entitled little crybaby survivors are being so mean to me. It's because I played like an asshole. You have every right to play this game like an asshole, and everyone you play against has the right to complain about it. So either be an asshole or stop playing like one. Either way, you can take that pretty little pity me card you're holding, roll it up into a fine little tube, and use it to go f yourself. Honestly, I think we need more asshole players in the DVD community. Especially since Dog Trash is gonna quit making YouTube videos at the start of January.
Yeah, that is wild. Like, that is wild. This got to a lot more than I thought it was. But, like, that is wild that this person in particular, the interviewed 3-gen player, tried to play that pity card. That is wild. That is absolutely wild. Making the most miserable experience possible in one match of DBD as you could possibly make it, just so you could win, and then crying that people are upset about that? My brother, what are you doing? That is a level of delusion that I could never, ever understand. Never, ever understand. That is a level of delusion I could never, ever understand. Like, they can't be serious, but they are, because it's the DBD community. That is wild to me. Absolutely wild to me. That is a take of all time. Hello, friends. Hey, KJ. How's it going? Hopefully life is treating you well. I was talking about this earlier today. I was on a little soapbox about this earlier today. It's like, I can get along with somebody who's mean, but they're honest. I'm probably not gonna be friends with them, but like, I know what they are, so I can, you know, adjust. I can make my boundaries. I could only interact with them at a civil level, just to have a discussion. But like, if I know they're mean and they're honest and they're just being themselves, I can make my adjustments. I can draw my boundaries. I can do my thing. The people like this, the people that like are mean and then they walk it back or try to like gaslight you into thinking you're the mean one, these are the people I can't get along with. These are the people that you scrub from your life so quickly. Even if you get the inkling people are doing that, playing that strat on you, scrub them out of your life immediately. Scrub them. Because that is the most backwards, stupid thing that anybody can do. This player knows what they're doing. They're prioritizing their win. They're prioritizing their win at the expense of extreme boredom and frustration for 4 other people. And then they're gonna like try to like be like, well, everyone else is the problem. No, buddy, you're the fucking problem. Take responsibility. Or at least own it. One of the two. Take responsibility and don't do it anymore. Or own it and be like, yeah, I am very cringe, that's fun, but like winning means that much to me. And own it. Don't try to do this like, oh well, it was your fault. And well, it was you. Don't do that shit. Like, come on. That's disgusting. I hate that so much. So much. Coordinator position? Ooh, let's go. Hopefully it goes well, friend. Yeah, this is stupid. I'm done. I'm done with this video. I'm done.